Hey, hi, and hello, it is Capital 10 again, and today I'd like to talk about my most played Switch games. I've fallen in love with this console over the nearly 5 years I've had it. Admittedly, it's a bit lacking on features, but I can live with that. One of the features it does have, however, is that it tracks your playtime for each game with multiples of 5 hours. It's not as refined as the PlayStation, which gives you a more precise measurement, but it's easier to look at on the Switch, and that's where I discovered the feature first. It's a fantastic method of tracking just how much of my life I've wasted. But in all seriousness, I love that my appreciation for quality games has a tangible record to accompany it. So today, I thought I'd look through the list and count down my 10 most played games on the Nintendo Switch and discuss what I love about them. And I'll keep spoilers out of this video, so don't worry. Number 10 is Spyro Reignited Trilogy. The Spyro games were one of the defining aspects of my childhood, and Lord knows just how long I spent playing through them back in the day. This and Crash were my PlayStation gems. Get it? Gems and Spyro? Anyway, after Crash got his revamped trilogy, the wait for Spyro's turn was agonizing, but it finally came through. Although the lead up to the game was troubled with the announcement that only the first title would be on the physical release and the other two would need to be downloaded, I was still drawn in like a moth to a dragon's flame. Once you have all the games ready to go, they're all packed with fun adventures and beautiful landscapes. Each game feels unique with varying characters and side quests in the sequels, so it really is like having 3 games in one. Number 9 is Super Mario Odyssey. This was the first game I ever played on my Switch, and man oh man does it still hold up. Personally, I've always preferred the 2D outings that Mario has to offer, but in this case I'll certainly make an exception. The movement in this game is insanely smooth thanks to both Mario and his trusty new friend Cappy. Having that extra bounce off your hat opens up so many possibilities for traversing the terrain. Or, you may find yourself in a side-scrolling section where you can't throw Cappy, but that's fine too because it harkens back to those previously mentioned glory days of old where the mechanics still hold up. And let's not forget the main gimmick of the title, the capture ability. I love taking over animals, machines, and inanimate objects because it offers variety that feels natural as opposed to shoehorned in. I'm really excited to see what the sequel has in store, provided they make one, that is. Number 8 is Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, Complete Edition. I'm pretty sure this one made it solely because I'm a slow reader. Honestly, this game feels like a visual novel at times given how much dialogue it contains, and I forget there's combat until I'm suddenly thrown into a fight. Really though, I adore this game because Digimon has been my jam since I was a little kid, and the amount of experimentation with your Digimon is absurd. The branching trees let you really play around with your team as you explore the different routes your Digimon can take, and then you can de-digivolve to a lower level mon in order to follow another path. And to top it off, the game encourages you to take steps back because you get to keep moves you've learned that may be useful to a different Digimon, and you're given more ability points by moving down the tree as opposed to up, which affords you access to even rarer companions. It may take some grinding, sure, but it feels so rewarding to do so that the time honestly slips away from you because you're having fun. Number 7 is Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, Link Evolution. If you haven't figured out that I'm a 90s dweeb yet from hearing me gush about Digimon, here you go. Although Yu-Gi-Oh! Came at a later time down the road, I was still instantly hooked the moment I tuned into that anime, and wow, this game emulates it so well. The game itself perfectly replicates nearly all of the duels from the series so that you can relive your favorite moments from the show, even down to some of the filler arcs. Shouts out to the Orichalcos gang, by the way. Not to mention, you can build your own decks from over 10,000 different cards, meaning the combinations are seemingly endless. And I say 10,000 because even though it started as more than 9,000 cards, they've since added a free update to bring in newer booster packs and complete the story of the latest anime arc. That means I can now play using cards based off Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is wild. And don't forget that outside of the story mode, you unlock challenge duels that teach you about various meta strategies with more heavy-hitting cards. Granted, most of them are outdated, but it's still a nice addition. Number 6 is Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fuel. Remember how I said that Spyro and Crash were heroes of mine as a kid? Well, here we are. If I had the Insane trilogy on Switch, it'd probably appear here too. But back on topic, this remake had everything I could have wanted. The graphics are beautiful, the controls are silky smooth, and the game features content from both Crash Team Racing and Crash Nitro Kart. It's essentially a 2-in-1 package without the more sloppy mechanics of the latter title. And they kept adding content. New characters, new tracks, a new single player mode in Ring Rally, and an entirely new driving style with the drift setting. This went on for 8 months. I know that in a lot of recent cases, it's a detriment to hear that there will be free updates, as that usually means that the game just isn't complete and is getting patches to hide the bare bones nature of the title. But Nitro Fuel legitimately felt like a complete package from the get-go, so these updates were really just adding toppings to an already delicious bowl of ice cream. Number 5 is Slay the Spire. Now, confession time. This actually tied in hours with Crash Team Racing, but thinking back on it, a good chunk of that time for the latter was probably spent on loading screens, while the former was quick on the draw, so I'm giving it the edge. So, I've never played roguelikes or roguelites or whatever they're called, but man oh man do I see the appeal after playing this game. I wasn't sure that I would enjoy a game essentially based on dying until you get it right, but then I thought about how I'm a sucker for card games. See the Yu-Gi-Oh entry for proof. And so I gave it a shot. And thank goodness I did. This game, simply put, is addictive. I always get that itch for just one more try. It's easy to do so as well, considering the game itself is so short. The average time for each run hovers around an hour, so even if you didn't make it this time, that's not much time commitment lost. In fact, it's because it's so short that I've put so much time into it. It's the perfect title for when you'll be leaving the house soon, or you'll be heading to bed before too long and don't want to throw on something more time consuming like an RPG. It found its way onto this list all sneaky like, eating away at my time piece by piece, and I am fine with that. Number 4 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Everyone is here, and everyone won't stop taking up my time. In a good way though. It's fine if you don't want to think about this title as a fighting game, but that's how I perceive it. So can I just say how wild it is that a fighting game has this big of a roster? Now, are there balance issues? Sure. And with the roster size this big, can you really blame them? But, seeing as how I'm not on the competitive scene, I can still have fun with these characters in spite of their flaws. This is pretty much the game I play with my friend whenever we see each other, and we have a ball doing so. And don't get me started on the DLC. Many of my favorite characters came about as a result of the 2 fighters passes. I'd find my playtime lulling ever so slightly, and then bam, here comes a new challenger with a unique gimmick that reinvents how you play the game and perceive your opponents. And that's just 1-on-1. The fact that 8 people or computers can fill the screen with nonsense throws that notion right out the window entirely, but not in a negative way. It's just another aspect to this title that you can spend hours upon hours exploring. Number 3 is Octopath Traveler. I'm not sure how much I can put into words here. There's only so many ways to show my appreciation for the beauty that is this game. I mean, just look at it. This was the introduction of the HD 2D style, so when I first witnessed it, it blew my mind and hooked me into purchasing it. Then, as if that wasn't enough, the music decided it was going to go harder than it had any right to. Seriously, aside from the retro soundtracks that I put on due to nostalgia purposes, this is the soundtrack that I listen to most frequently, regardless of whether I want to chill out or get hyped. Visuals and audio combine beautifully to hypnotize you for hours on end. And the gameplay is good too, I guess. I kid. The boost mechanic adds a solid amount of complexity, and the job system gives credence to ample customization. Plus, the story is great. If you liked Spyro for having 3 games in one, how about having what is essentially 8 games in one? Okay, you can technically beat every storyline in one playthrough, but I like starting off with each character to experience their nuances instead of stringing them along and having them get lost in the shuffle. It's a game that asks you to take your time with it, and I'm more than happy to oblige. Number 2 is Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Leave a like if you saw this one coming. It's one of the juggernauts of the system, and deservedly so. The openness is what drove the hours up in this game for me. Once you finish the tutorial, you're free to do basically whatever you want. and even the tutorial itself feels open with the various ways you can navigate the plateau as you seek out the shrines. Afterwards, you're given a suggestion as to where you should head, sure, but nothing's stopping you from straying from the path. On my first playthrough, I turned around immediately and headed for the mountains in the desert. The point is, it caters to any player's curiosities. And boy, does this game have curiosities. I've played through the game half a dozen times, and with each playthrough, I discover something new. Like in my most recent playthrough, for example, I discovered you could drop bombs while paragliding. The sheer amount of hours I spent not knowing that blows my mind. Overall, there's so much to unravel in this title, and I hope there's even more I've yet to see. And finally, number 1 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's not even close. I may have a legitimate problem when it comes to how often I'll go back and replay this game. But how could you not love it? The character designs, the superb voice acting, and the branching storylines keep me coming back. Not to mention the customization. This is my first Fire Emblem game I've really sunk any time into, so I'm a little hazy on the details, but I've heard that the job progression in the rest of the series is somewhat limited from character to character. It's not exactly railroaded, but the options are scarce to say the least. Not in Three Houses though. Any character can go into any class save for some gender-locked exclusives, so each playthrough can run drastically different from the last. Do you want to maximize your individual student's strengths? Go for it. Do you want to make a team solely made of flying units? You can do that. Do you want to meme it up and leave everybody as their starting class of nobles and commoners? I don't know why you'd put yourself through that, but go off. And the battles themselves are terrific. The action lines improve your understanding of what's going down, the battalions are seamlessly integrated into combat through usage and stat boosts, and the cuts to cinematic action bits really keep you invested as a captivating stimulus. It really doesn't get boring, at least as long as I've been playing it, and I can assure you that's quite a long time. So that's my list. I understand that this is slightly different from my usual analysis style of content, but I just wanted to do this. It's a fun little manner of retrospection to trace my gaming habits and to relive some of the magic of these titles. I'd strongly encourage you all to try out these games to see if they mean as much to you as they do to me. Let me know down below if you've played any of these or if they're on your wish list. What's your most played game on the Switch? Let's chat about it. And that's all from me this time. If you liked what I talked about, then consider leaving a like on the video. And if you want to continue the discussion, leave a comment of your thoughts about the subject. But please be respectful. Did you like what I had to say or how I said it? Why not subscribe? If you didn't like it, thanks for hearing me out this long anyway. This is Capital 10 signing off. See y'all some other time.